Hey everyone, welcome back to Atlanta Tech Edge. Well, last week I sat down with Tricia Whitlock, the director of marketing at the company Your Ideas Are Terrible, and she gave us detailed information on how to launch a startup right here in Atlanta, utilizing the many tools our city has to offer. Today, we continue the conversation about the evolution of Atlanta's thriving tech community and how it compares to other cities across the nation. Take a look. I'm going to ask you specifically about a few things I know you're invested in, that you work with. Let's start with the Bridge community, and people might not know what that is, so tell people what it is. And,
sure.
Let's start there.
Sure. So we are a corporate commercialization accelerator. So we help corporations to work with startups and startups to work with corporations. So our metric of success is creating pilots of proof of concepts. So if we can get a corporation to be a big customer for a startup, the startup learns and grows throughout that process. They can also, of course, have like a Porsche or a Coca-Cola, which are two companies involved in the program, be on their customer list. And then for the corporations, we teach them how to work with startups. So for corporations, it can be very difficult. There's a lot of bureaucratic red tape. There's a lot to work through. So we try to help them to learn how to empathize and work alongside the startup.
I know that you've been a part of the startup scene here for 5+ years in Atlanta, and now recently you've been able to travel around the country and learn about startups. Talk about Startup Genome.
Yes, so I've been working with Startup Genome. They are going across the country and looking at 10 different cities this year, creating city-centric reports on the strengths and weaknesses of those startup ecosystems. So we got a list of 30 to choose from, and the 4 that I picked were Fresno, Reno, Springfield, and Hartford. So I was kind of in these small towns, but getting to meet the most passionate people that are in these areas. And they're utilizing startups to revitalize downtown areas, bring folks out of poverty. It's really fascinating to see very young startup ecosystems and the major players and what they're able to do with so much resource constraints.
Compare it to Atlanta if you can. I mean, I'm sure
Sure.
we are down the road a little bit further, but talk about what you've learned as far as
Well, it reminds
comparison.
me a lot of Atlanta in the very beginning, honestly. There's a lot of really broad, general accelerators, incubators, co-working spaces. So in Atlanta now, we're seeing with the maturity, we're getting much more specific. So it's definitely been fascinating to see how much broader it is in these smaller cities. But really, you kind of, no matter where you are, there you are, right? Especially in Springfield, where Dr. Seuss is from. It's really fascinating to see, the very, very smart people and talent is everywhere. And because of that, startups are everywhere. So they're being able to find resources from other areas, right? So folks in Fresno are getting funding from being out in the valley, right? So it's just, there's all these, they're really doing a great job of sourcing resources from other places to bring them into their area.
Did you see anything that particularly struck you as like something that they're doing specifically in that town? Like Reno, was there anything specifically there that, I think of gambling, but is it targeted? Is it targeted to like geography, or is it more just like good ideas are good ideas?
Well, somewhat, right? Because of gaming, there's actually a lot in the gaming tech sector in Reno.
See, I'm fascinated by that.
You know it already.
Yeah.
One that I thought was really interesting in Fresno is called Bitwise Industries, and they have created a physical co-working space, a coding school, and actually a dev shop. And they've taken this very fascinating, very intricate business model, and they're revitalizing the entire downtown by building one building after the next. So you think about what David Cumming did for really that corner of revitalizing that building.
Right.
They're doing that for the entire city, just focused on startups.
That's incredible.
And it's 2 20-somethings that are running this, right? So it's really interesting to see what you can do in a smaller town.
Yeah, this might be a big surface question, but what's next for Atlanta, you think? Where do we need to go to be number one?
Well, I definitely hope that we see more within this corporate startup space. We have the Engage Fund, so there's some money flowing with the Bridge community. You're having relationships that are very strongly built, but we have such a huge corporate, right? We have between 15 and 18, depending on when the numbers are run, Fortune 500s, and then also 5 of the top 20 nonprofits. So we have all of these ginormous entities that can help all boats rise together by working with startups. And we're seeing some interaction with that, but to me, it feels very young. So I think as we can mature through that, we'll see a lot more growth for startups and also a lot more corporate growth.